Over the past 2 years, some centres may have altered the way in which they work when completing GCSE Art and Design. This video contains 3 examples of candidate submissions where they've worked in a digital format. The student has presented their work in an order that makes their personal journey easy to follow. They begin with initial exploration of the centre set theme. This is then followed by personal investigation into artists relevant to their own ideas. Here the student has added their annotations to images directly from the work of the chosen artist, Frida Kahlo. The annotation has been typed directly onto the PowerPoint slide. This has avoided the difficulty of trying to read annotation, typed or handwritten, from a photograph of a page in the sketchbook. The photographs of the annotation can sometimes be too small or difficult to read. In typing their annotation directly onto the PowerPoint slide, it enables us to see quite clearly what the student is recording and understanding when considering the artist's work. The student has helped us by identifying quite clearly which of the images of the artist's work sourced from an internet search or gallery visit and which are their own studies or personal responses. It's important for the purposes of assessment that we can successfully identify work produced by the student. The student now begins to create their own primary source work, and once again they helpfully type their annotations directly onto the slide next to their images, explaining both the scale of pieces of work, A1, A4, etc., and the materials used to make them. This is particularly helpful as when images are placed onto a PowerPoint presentation, the scale and size is often lost. Something small, delicate or detailed can appear quite large. Something ambitious and large can appear quite small. The student has taken the opportunity to illustrate for us the making process, again adding annotation directly onto the slide, to share with us their thinking about the development of their work and the processes that they have selected in response to their artist studies. Alongside images of the whole piece of work, we are presented with close-up sections from the student's work. These help us to see and understand details and textures created in their own paintings. This is easily seen when viewing live work, but more difficult to assess when we are removed from the artwork by the digital documentation process. The student is placing the primary source photographs next to images of their own drawings, helpfully removing the need for us to flick back through the presentation to see the photographs which they are using as inspiration. The student has pulled together a series of photographs from their own work, which helped us to see the relationships that are developing between different pieces of work as their journey develops. And this artist analysis, the student has continued to type directly onto the slide and used other PowerPoint features, arrows, for example, to indicate quite clearly which areas of the image they are making commentary on as their idea develops and the creative journey progresses. The student continues to help us by supplying images of sections of their work, enlarged so that we can see the detail that they are referring to in their typed annotation. The explanation and annotation the student has supplied helpfully labels in terms of scale, process and materials, but goes beyond just labelling to help us understand their thought process and decision making as their project develops. For this candidate, the work has been completed in an A3 sketchbook. It was photographed by the student and placed into a PowerPoint format. It's been done in the same order as the work was presented in the sketchbook. Images have been supported with annotation that has been typed directly onto the slide. The size of the individual pieces of work have been given in the annotation. It can sometimes be difficult to identify the size of a piece of work and the materials are used when looking at it on a screen, as the surface qualities of a piece of artwork can be lost in the process of a digital presentation. Here the student has helpfully identified for us which is their own work and which is their own larger scale artist study. The annotation documents their critical analysis of the chosen image. It is the same analysis that could have been handwritten in a sketchbook, but by typing it on the presentation, it has helped provide us with work that is accessible. The relationship between text and image does need to be considered, as the process of digitising work reduces the scale of practical work, and it can appear that annotation is the dominant feature. The student has clearly identified for us which images are of their own work, studies from the artist's work, and those that are the artist's. It's really helpful to us, as it's not always easy to be certain, and it is important we feel confident in identifying the student's own work to ensure we make a secure moderation decision. The student's images and annotations evidence the development of their idea towards the realisation. The student continues to annotate their work, but only as necessary to help the digital moderation process. We see several slides where annotation was not needed, as the images, just as they would in a traditional moderation, provide all that is needed for the assessment process. Again, the student has helpfully identified their own work and ensures that we understand which of the images are of the artist's work and which are their own. The student is helping us to understand their work, identifying the thinking behind the development of their idea, and planning toward the final response. The student gives us information as to the scale of the final outcome. In this candidate submission, the work has been photographed by the student and placed into a PowerPoint format. It's been done in the same order as the work was presented in the sketchbook. Images have been supported with annotation that's been typed directly onto the slides. The annotation on many slides is giving us information about the size of the piece of work and often the media in which the student was working. It can sometimes be difficult to identify the size of a piece of work and the materials used, as the surface qualities of a piece of work can be lost in the process of digital presentation. It is important to take time to establish as much information as possible about the pieces of work to ensure we make informed assessment decisions. Here the student has helpfully identified for us which is their own work, their own artist studies, and which are actually images of the artist's work. This is really helpful to us, as it's not always easy to be certain, and it is important we feel confident in identifying the student's own work. The student has identified the slides just as they would have provided annotation in their sketchbook, supporting the images which dominate the slides, giving us information in relation to what they are doing and what they were thinking as their work developed. Here the student has told us that the work has been made using carbon paper, monoprint and ink pen. It's often very easy to tell us when we are looking at a piece of work how it was made. The surface quality can tell us what media was used. Some of that does get a little bit lost in digital presentations, so the annotation here is very helpful. Again, the student has helpfully identified their own work and ensures that we understand which of the images are of their artist's work and which are their own. The student is helping us to understand their work and identifying the process, which is linoprint. There are some textual marks that can be seen and might indicate it's linoprint, but annotating it helps to ensure that we understand. The student gives us information as to the scale of the pieces and how this might relate to their thinking and planning. Again, this information about the media and scale helps us to better understand the student's personal work and how they reach their final outcome.